Al Golden's got a three-level problem to solve with his defense. They need to get better on that side of the ball. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jake Lisco. He's James Rapine, and we've had you covered here on Locked On Bengals since 2016, the best one-stop shop for all things Bengals. You get news, you get analysis, you get film breakdowns, you get previews, you get everything you need to stay up to date on your Cincinnati Bengals. The everydayers already know about that, and welcome back if you make Locked On Bengals your first listen today on what is the beginning of a mini bye week in many ways, as the Bengals are back to work on Monday in some capacity, have a long week to get ready for the New York Jets. We're going to dive into some of the things that hopefully they're fixing over the course of the first of what will be two mini buys for the Bengals this year, in addition to their actual bye week with the second Thursday night game coming against Baltimore later this year, and some problems that they need to address at every level of this defense, whether it's Taylor-Britt in the secondary and the safety play that we saw against the Steelers, or the lack of a pass rush, the rookie linebackers out there. A lot at every level to dive into today. We also will touch later in the show about the questions that remain at guard. We've been talking about the guard position for the Cincinnati Bengals since the summer, since the spring, since forever, and that will remain the case today. But James, the Bengals have to get things sorted on this defense. Joe Flacco will not be out there to score 35 points a week. That is a lofty standard. However, the defense is allowing 30 points a game. And, well, we're sponsored by FanDuel today, and you can get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins with FanDuel. But if FanDuel were to just set the over-unders based on what the Bengals are allowing in points per game, it would be 30 points for the opposition right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's look, this Bengals team is built for the offense to win them games and for the offense to be the reason why they make the playoffs and do everything that they're hoping to do. But, and here's the big but, and that's right, it's a big but, Jake. The Bengals needed multiple young guys to emerge as not just functional, not just solid, but emerge as big-time playmakers. And it's no coincidence. I really don't think it is a coincidence. Jordan Battle has 3 interceptions this year. All 3 of those interceptions came in Bengals wins, and they were big difference-making plays. But outside of DJ Turner, whose recent emergence over the past month has made him, to me, the most exciting young player on this defense, the most exciting building block that isn't an established star like Trey Hendrickson. And as great as that is, there's really not a close second. I'm probably the biggest Dax Hill guy on the planet, maybe outside of his family, and he's been really solid. But that might be the list, is like Jordan Battle, half the games, Dax Hill, solid, DJ Turner, oh man, he's been so sticky and has all these pass breakups, and obviously had that amazing interception the other day. Like, maybe he's going to be a not just a foundation piece, but a budding star. Like, if you look at it through the best case or best scenario. But outside of that, it's not like you're getting a ton out of all these rookies that you're banking on defense. It's not like you're getting a ton out of Myles Murphy or Joseph Osai in a prove-it year when he signed that 1-year contract with hopes of cashing in March. Like, all of these guys that were what ifs or question marks, most of them are either still question marks and haven't emerged, or have emerged, Cam, and what they've done is been underwhelming enough to be a healthy scratch. So I know I just hit on like the entire defense, but that's why you said 3 levels, because it's not like we're like, oh, well, Shamar and Joseph and Myles, they have a pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson. No one feels that way. No one feels like Jordan Battle, at least I don't, has played well enough to know at this point that he's going to be a contract extension type of player this offseason. Maybe he gets there, but I don't feel that way right now. And that sucks because that's translated to this defense doing what it's done, which is give up 30 plus per game.
For the regulars on this defense, it's Trey and DJ Turner. And those are the guys that you feel like have relatively consistently made plays, especially DJ Turner in the last 3 weeks. He's had an excellent 3 weeks. Last 2 weeks highlighted by pass breakups. He leads the NFL with 9 pass breakups, according to PFF charting. Whatever you want to say about the stats, he's had the crazy interceptions. DJ Turner's having a breakout year that is reminiscent of how last year went for DJ Turner, where it was a bit of a slower start for him. And then by the time he started to emerge, he got hurt. So if he can stay healthy, there's a 2-year trend and there's a linear trajectory that DJ Turner's been on since a rookie, where we saw some of the flashes. We saw that, DJ Turner often was the guy that was like in position but couldn't make a play on the ball, and then started making plays on the ball a little bit more. And then this year we're seeing a lot of plays on the ball to the point where he's leading the league in ball disruption at corner, if you count pass breakups and interceptions and just add those numbers together. But it's him, and Trey is still an effective pass rusher. I have seen some people say that Trey has slowed down this year. His numbers are worse. He's losing money. He missed a game. I think that's a little bit of a superficial look at Trey's stats. If you're only looking at sacks, his trend for sacks is certainly off of 17 right now. His trend for overall pressures is down a little bit right now, but the underlying pass rush win rate, if you look at those numbers across the board, if you look at Brandon Thorne's analysis, Trey's still good. But beyond that, remember when we talked about coin flips for this team? And we talked about, we're going to toss like 10 coins on this defense, and maybe half of them come up heads, and you start to figure some things out, find some guys to build around. Maybe Al Golden can find ways to put guys in better positions. And part of this is Al Golden needs to be better, in my opinion. I think there are a few play calls, and this isn't surprising, but there's a few play calls a game where I'm really wondering what the heck Al Golden's thinking. Zero blitzing Aaron Rodgers on 3rd and 8 in the red zone. I've talked about a few times. I still don't like that call. Aaron Rodgers is just too good for you to try to pull that card out. The 3-man rush that leads to Aaron Rodgers' 10-year touchdown where he's running around for the entire game and then finds a guy. Al Golden took responsibility for that one.
You're highlighting 2 extremes.
For sure.
Right. And so that tells me he's searching.
Right.
And he's really, really trying to search for the right formula.
And it's that, and it's like the way they're starting games, right? The way that they're kind of getting these slow starts, giving up touchdowns on opening drives so frequently. But then beyond just Al Golden, and we can come back to this topic, they have this throw it at the wall and see what sticks approach right now with personnel too. And like all those coins that we talked about flipping, except DJ Turner, have come up at best on their side, but most of those are on tails right now. And they're not getting those good outcomes where we thought, maybe half of them will turn up heads and they'll be okay. They've had some spurts of playing okay. They're really inconsistent right now as a group, but it's just not good enough between tackling, between guys being out of position in zone, between some of these play calls, between guys not being in run gaps. There's just too many problems too consistently right now for this Bengals defense.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I'm trying to think, a theme might be the wrong word, but I'm going to say theme. Searching is probably the right word. They're searching everywhere, clearly. They're looking under the rug. Oh, Barrett Carter. Oh, well, Marco Wilson. Well, just trying anything. And I just want them to be able to tackle, Jake. Just like simple stuff. Like, you're going to give up plays. Fine. Aaron Rodgers buys time and you only rush 3 and you realize you probably shouldn't have rushed 3 and he has 8.6 seconds to throw and he finds Jonnu Smith for a touchdown. Like, okay. But can you tackle Jalen Warren? Can you not have a breakdown with your veteran safety when you're up 6 where Pat Freiermuth scores what could have been the game-winning touchdown? Like, those are the things that are really frustrating. Like, that can't happen. Like, if you and me were playing safety, I'd be so mad if we gave that play up. Just so you know. Like, if you and me were there. And because that just shouldn't happen.
And beyond that, it was the second time it happened in the game. And Aaron Rodgers had seen the entire game. Yeah, when DK Metcalf's over there, Geno Stone's getting way out over the numbers, and that's opening up the seam. They got you on a 3rd and 18, and then they got you again on a 2nd and 20 for a 70-yard touchdown.
And it's 2nd and 20, and they got to go get a touchdown. Like, it's mighty, mighty frustrating. And it is the 2025 Cincinnati Bengals defense to this point. We'll continue the conversation coming up next.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Today's show is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. The Bengals defense needs to sweat every single detail. Mazda already does that. They bring the same intention with how they craft every single model, and you can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, Jake Lisco knows firsthand what it's like to drive a Mazda because he has one. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Jake, let's continue the conversation here when it comes to this Bengals defense and the personnel part of it, because I think that's the element here that we question. Like, we kind of understood Lou and moving on and how Al Golden could theoretically fit, but then personnel wise, their big free agent addition was TJ Slayton. Shocker. NFL teams need a nose tackle. They get Mike Pennell right before the start of the season, but it's not like they went out and they got a great edge rusher, right? They drafted Shamar Stewart and drafted a bunch of guys and addressed the defense that way. But those decisions and those question marks and banking on young players, I think that's part of why this Bengals defense, a big reason why this Bengals defense is where it is right now.
You also bring back BJ Hill, and I think BJ Hill's playing fine.
Yeah.
But he's playing fine. And there's no presence on the interior. So when you start up front, and I'm starting there when I think about the 3-level problem, because we've talked about how Trey is still good. He's still a good pass rusher. We've still seen it. He's still going to, if he's playing against the Steelers in that fourth quarter, life is a lot harder for Aaron Rodgers than if it's Joseph Osai over there and Shamar Stewart getting lost and trying to turn and trying to corner, coming off an ankle injury that is probably hampering the already somewhat limited flexibility and bend for Shamar. Like, he's a great athlete, but turning corners is not his forte. Things probably go a little bit differently. But the reason I start there is because you're talking about what they did on the defensive line. And they still, apparently, the team that drafted Geno Atkins doesn't believe in having an interior pass rush anymore. And I don't know what happened between drafting Geno Atkins and literally everything that's happened since the Bengals drafted Geno Atkins and saw how good he was in his Hall of Fame career with the Cincinnati Bengals. But they just haven't had an interior pass rush at a significant level with a havoc creator since then. And so you've got Miles Murphy, Joseph Osai, Cam Sample playing a lot, and now the return of Shamar Stewart, and you're hoping to get literally any production out of those guys. Miles Murphy's flashed at times, but not enough to stay on the field consistently. Joseph Osai still looks like the same guy. He hasn't taken any steps. He's, a cleanup sack kind of player. He's going to play with a high motor, but we saw Aaron Rodgers get out of his grasp a couple of times, and that's Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. Cam Sample's still Cam Sample, and Shamar Stewart has to learn. And so you got one guy here in Trey Hendrickson, and all those coin flips, like, will anybody take a step? Can anyone develop? Can Shamar Stewart make some splashes as a rookie?
Yeah.
So far, the answer is not so much.
And the injury sucks. Like dealing with the injury, I liked what I saw from Shamar in training camp and think he can matter, but he can't be your guy, like your number one pass rush. Like that's never, that's not something that we ever thought.
Especially when he misses a bunch of time.
No doubt. But like, he's like the perfect complement to Trey in a lot of ways. He can play in multiple spots. He's versatile. I think that he can help. But when you don't go out, like banking on BJ Hill, when you already have Chris Jenkins as a second rounder, and like, I think you're hoping Chris Jenkins becomes the next BJ Hill in some ways, as weird as that and that comp's been made, but you're obviously hoping for more. But you know, when you could have used that on an edge rusher, taken that money in Osai and gotten a stud edge rusher, like there's a lot of ways you could have done it. And it hasn't worked. Now, maybe one of these guys figures it out. Maybe Trey and Shamar becomes this awesome duo, but it hasn't. And when you give up that much time, regardless of DJ Turner and Dax Hill, and even if they had really good safeties, you're going to give up plays if you can't rush the passer. And that's what sucks right now is clearly they had a personnel problem. I don't think anyone doubted that, like with the Lou stuff. Like I've seen some people try to revisit the conversation. When they moved on from Lou, I don't think any of us were like, oh, well, it's only on Lou. The personnel was a huge issue. I get wanting to start fresh and go that route if you do, and they did. But you need more talent. And banking on what they're banking on in the pass rush, it certainly hasn't worked. And banking on what they did at linebacker, where they invested, sometimes it's wild to say, they invested more at linebacker this offseason than they did in their pass rush. Like that's wild. And yet I look at linebacker and it's like, well, that's not solved either. Mm-hmm. So what the hell were you doing if you invest that much in a position that it isn't as valuable and it's still not solved? It would be one thing if they had one of the best linebacker units in the league now, or it felt like their rookies were going to be so good that it was worth it. But they didn't invest enough in the pass rush, invest a lot at linebacker, and they're still not even above average there in my eyes.
And part of this is rookies are going to be rookies, you know, rookies are going to struggle at times. And we've talked a lot about, right. And it's the two sides of the coin, right? Like we've talked a lot about, like, can we get some rookies on the field? Can we see what some of these guys have? We've talked about this in the past at numerous positions, right? There are times when it's like, can we find a role for these guys that we spent these draft picks on? This year they're doing that. They're finding roles. They're shoehorning Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight onto the field. And as a result, have some of the guys that have missed the most tackles in the NFL on the Bengals. Demetrius Knight and Jordan Battle have 10 and 11 missed tackles, respectively. Barrett Carter has 7 missed tackles. This is all PFF charting.
And Barrett hasn't played. It's not like he started every game, you know?
Barrett Carter's played about half the snaps of Jordan Battle. And the result is you get the worst PFF tackling grade in the NFL. PFF's pretty good at charting missed tackles. If there's something you want to say that they do well or don't do well, they're pretty good at charting missed tackles, in my opinion, having seen like the play-by-play data and like then gone to watch the film. So part of this is growing pains, right? At linebacker, that they're going to have this sometimes with rookies where it might just take a little bit of time for some of these guys to figure things out and learn those rookie lessons. Maybe in the long term, both of those guys are fine NFL players and develop. And this time of making some of these mistakes is crucial development for those guys. That's part of what it was for Lou, right? Is they spent all these draft picks and they just didn't get enough out of them. Mm-hmm. And Lou was part of that conversation because the coaches are so involved in the draft in Cincinnati, and it's their job as a coaching staff to find the roles and find the ways to make those players succeed once they get their hands on them. They weren't able to do that enough, but now we're seeing that persist with another defensive staff, and Al Golden's still trying to figure some things out from a schematic perspective, from a personnel perspective, trying to develop guys, trying to, you know, in his words, keep things in a way where the players can play fast. And that's just still a work in progress. And that doesn't mention the issue with Cam Taylor-Britt, that you have Cam Taylor-Britt who came into the season expected to be this leader in the secondary, and then he's inactive, healthy scratch. Let's make sure we hit on that Cam Taylor-Britt topic, James, before we get to the guard questions that still linger as the Bengals work through their mini bye, coming off a win. So it's not bad by any means, but this defense has answers to find. We'll continue on those topics coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. They have all of the props, all of the odds, all of the betting lines. Maybe you think that the Bengals are going to rally and win the AFC North. Well, you can get all of your division odds, boom, right there. Right now, as we record, they're plus 500. They have the third best odds, well ahead of the Browns, but behind the Steelers and behind the Ravens. So you can still get pretty good odds if you think that that's going to be the case, and they're going to handle business in the division for the first time since 2022. Regardless, you got to get to FanDuel. Well, right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. Get in the game today with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
It's kind of crazy when you talk about the odds for the Bengals to win the AFC North that you have to go all the way back to 2022 at this point. Like, we've had 2 full loss seasons for the Bengals since then, between injuries and last year's defensive debacle. In fact, it's Cam Taylor-Britt's rookie season, 2022, the last time the Bengals won the AFC North, when Cam Taylor-Britt was seen as an ascending future potential cornerstone player. And he put together similarly productive years in 23 and 24. And then between benchings at times and getting back onto the field, we're back to the same song and dance with Cam Taylor-Britt with the new coaching staff, which I think definitively kind of points in a direction at who can change this. And I guess the question is, does Cam Taylor-Britt have a chance to salvage this thing with the Bengals?
I think if he stays on the roster, he's going to have a chance. And what's so interesting is how quickly Cam and DJ have gone in opposite directions. Like, DJ Turner was a punchline for a lot of training camp for people on social media. DJ Turner was told by Zach Taylor before their week 1 game against the Browns, like, hey, you're not starting. And Cam Taylor-Britt has had those conversations. I know he has. And the coaching staff, and this isn't just about the coaching staff, but like the theme of the offseason when it came to Cam Taylor-Britt, what was the word everyone used? Consistency. Zach said it the other day, again, after Cam was a healthy and active. And so he's just got to be consistent, because I think he has the talent to start, to play, to matter. And so whatever it is that is not happening behind the scenes that the coaches feel like is impacting him on the field, on game day, it's got to be dialed in on football. And I think that's it, is whatever it is. It might be he's just not watching enough film. It might be that technique-wise he needs to work on it after practice. Like, I don't really care at this point. But I think Cam is a good human being. I like Cam. And we only see so much. Coaches are only going to say so much. And he's respected enough, and he's earned some of that with his teammates, where it's not like you're hearing chirping or mumbling or anything like that behind the scenes about him. But he's clearly losing the trust, or has lost the trust of this coaching staff, and he's got to earn that back. And the only way you do that, to me, is you just got to put your head down and work hard. And that's pretty much his option, unless they traded him, which I would not rule out.
It's not like there's a lack of continuity for, like, they have a new defensive coordinator, but it's still the same corners coach.
No doubt. And a good corners coach.
It's been some of the same stuff for Cam.
Yep.
It's not just the staff change that's the issue here. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the trade possibility, we're getting closer to the trade deadline. That conversation is going to be a little bit different now that they have won a single game in the post Joe Burrow part of 2025. And we'll see, obviously, if Joe can get back. But part of this is going to extend to the lingering questions that the Bengals have at guard, where Jalen Rivers is now the fourth highest repped guard or offensive lineman on the team. You have the roughly every snap players in Ted Karras, Orlando Brown, and Amarius Mims. Mims missed a few snaps as he came off the field with various bumps and bruises. But Jalen Rivers, at 198 pass blocking reps, has the fourth most pass blocking reps on the team right now and has given up the second most pressures on the team, despite having 100 less snaps than those tackles, according to PFF charting anyway. He's at 19 pressures allowed, which is more than Amarius Mims and 2 less than Orlando Brown so far this year. Meanwhile, we've seen the shift at left guard from Dylan Fairchild when he got hurt to Dalton Risner. Risner has acquitted himself reasonably, I think, and has represented at times a more consistent player. He got a couple times against Pittsburgh, but the decision-making for the Bengals at guard remains interesting, where Lucas Patrick is now back, and you've seen Dalton Risner, the upside of having the veteran Dalton Risner on the team. And now you have these 2 rookies and Jalen Rivers and Dylan Fairchild, and you're trying to develop them, trying to get them live action to get them ready to go. But at the same time, it's similar to the linebacker spot where you've got rookie growing pains and you've got guys that maybe just aren't ready in some cases. So it'll be interesting to see over the course of this mini buy, how long do they stick with Jalen Rivers? Because some of the tape, especially in pass pro, you like the attitude, you like some of the approach that he's bringing, especially in the run game, but some of the pass pro tape for Jalen Rivers in particular is leaving something to be desired, I would say.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't, as you're trying to win games, look at it and say Dalton Risner needs to be starting. I think that's an element of it. And I do think that Dylan Fairchild is ahead of Jalen Rivers. And so don't be shocked if that's the route they go. Now, that involves moving Dalton back to the right side next to Amarius Mims. I don't think that's a down. I think that's fine. Maybe they like that tandem of Orlando and Dalton on the left side. And so that's what they have to work through. To me, though, clearly, and at the time we said this, it would have been nice to have Dalton in training camp and working and all those things. He wasn't in football shape. He wasn't ready to go, and he got his butt whooped a few times because he signed and had to play 10 days later and then started the next week. And then the next week gets nicked up and you go with the rookie. I get it. But now the rookie is struggling and you need to keep your 40-year-old quarterback upright so he can do what he did the other night. I don't see would you debate that Dalton is one of their 2 best guards, regardless of who the other guard is? I wouldn't. I think he's clearly one of their 2 best guards.
Yeah, I just honestly might want to keep him on the left side. And that's where it gets tricky, because
gets tricky,
I do think
no
that there's some chemistry kind of evolving between him and Orlando. And he just had a good run blocking game. He was key to some of their better run plays. And that is not something that you would expect to see from Dalton Risner, especially against that Pittsburgh interior, which maybe is underachieving this year. If you go listen to Pittsburgh fans, they're very disappointed with their defensive line this year. But that's where it gets tricky to me, is really we're trying to figure out what to do at right guard. And Dylan Fairchild's played left guard. And so do you think about the return of Lucas Patrick as he gets further and further away from some of the injuries that hampered him throughout training camp and early this season?
I would. I would have considered that going into that Thursday game, given where they were at. It stinks with Dylan because he's basically only played left guard. Even in college, it was left guard. And that doesn't mean he couldn't move him to right, but you wouldn't want to do that now. At least I wouldn't. And so, yeah, I think, could it hurt to have Lucas Patrick out there? Now, the other element of it is he was your backup center. And how that plays out. We saw it week 1. If you roll with 2 centers and one of them is starting at guard, that's a scary proposition to be in if that guard gets hurt.
Because Matt Lee has been inactive often this year.
Yeah.
Is why we're talking about that.
Yeah. So it's a juggle. It really is. And I think Dylan Fairchild is going to be good at some point. But what Dalton has given you is very real. And to your point, there is chemistry there. And that would be my concern. So both of us agree he's one of the two best guards. He should continue to start. Do you move him from the left side? The answer is probably based on how confident they are and what they've seen from Jalen Rivers. Like, I know what the numbers are. Like, are you sticking with Jalen Rivers or not? If not, then I would, in an ideal world, I would rather play Dylan Fairchild at left guard if you think he's going to be better than what Rivers is at right guard, because I do think he's the future there. And so if you think Risner can give you what he's given you at left guard at right guard, then you do it. I'm not sure they feel that way. I don't know how they feel about it. They've left it open-ended for a reason. But if you're keeping Risner at left guard, then and you're worried about Rivers, well, then Lucas Patrick is the obvious option. And what that leads to, if you do that, is then are one of these rookies inactive if you want a true backup center ready to go active. And that's the real dilemma is now we're getting into the weeds a bit when it comes to offensive line decisions, but all things the Bengals have to consider when they're making these decisions, because if Lucas Patrick gets nicked up and you don't have a backup center available and you're playing the Jets, well, that can really screw you over in a game that you should win, for example.
I wouldn't really hesitate personally. Like, if you need to go with the veterans for a couple of weeks, maybe it's just until the bye. Maybe it's until one of those veterans shows that they shouldn't be on the field. You have the other options. The tricky thing, I guess, then would be like, yeah, if you have one of those rookies down, Jalen Rivers repped both sides. I guess then Cody Ford is your backup right guard if Dylan Fairchild's only playing left guard, just in terms of like the backup conversation. If Lucas Patrick deals with another injury.
Well, I think if you decide that Fairchild isn't going to start at left guard, then you instantly put him and have him rep both sides. Like the moment Dalton came out, and was no longer the starter, he was repping both sides a ton.
Right. I think he would have to. The Jets gives you a chance to try to get some footing at guard. Like, they've got Quentin Williams for sure. He's not having a great year, but the Jets are playing Jay Tufele, a defensive tackle right now. Not to take anything away from Jay Tufele, but this is a guy that couldn't make the Bengals team. The Jets on the interior right now, not the scariest pass rush. Like, they got some guys that can beat you, and I'm sure in a week I'll be regretting talking about the Jets interior defensive line this way, but gives you a chance to find something and try to build some continuity and build some confidence on the offensive line. And Joe Flacco, the way he's navigating the pocket and pass protection from a passing game perspective, the way he's feeling pressure, getting rid of the ball very quickly. At some point, teams are going to make that harder for you if you're the Bengals. But right now, he can help you build that confidence in the offensive line. And that's something that they need. They obviously need to figure that out and answer some of these questions, find some development. One of those things has to come together for this team as they're trying to remain in the picture here and got a big win on Thursday to do so.
Yeah, I'm with you. I lean veterans right now, and that doesn't mean don't have those other guys ready. They're rookies. They'll be fine. They'll bounce back.
They might be back later this year.
Dalton showed them 3 weeks ago how to handle it. We're long and we got to go, but I talked to Dalton and he handled that about as well as anyone could have, given the fact that he had signed like 2 weeks prior. And he's like, how in the world am I a backup now suddenly with no Joe Burrow? Like, he could have lost his mind and been like, I made a mistake. I should have went here or there, or all these other options that he had. And he said, no, I just got to keep working. And he got right back in it. And now we're both saying, hey, start him. So good for him. And I think the rookies will approach it the same way.
Rookies could be back later this season. Would almost expect it. That's going to do it for this episode.
The Jets.
Yeah. I mean, we might still see them. I mean, I'm just saying, if you took our approach, the rookies could earn their way back onto the field.
No doubt.
As soon as you wanted, as soon as they're ready. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. We got that mini bye, so we've got a couple more episodes for you this week before we get to the preview. Until next time, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day, and have a good one.